Hi, some of you have been asking me to make some videos on books. I always have a number of posts on Twitter and LinkedIn on books, but fine, let me talk on video as well. So let me start with this book called Business Adventures by John Brooks. This is a book that has been recommended by both Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. In fact, I think Buffett said this is one of the best books, business books ever he has read. While I'm not necessarily, I wouldn't put it right there, but yes, this is definitely a book worth reading. Now, this has essentially business stories from roughly 1920s, 30s to about 1960s, mostly from an American perspective. So you would say, why would I want to read old business newspapers in a sense, and what sense does it make? But the thing is that in human life, in almost any area of life, including business and markets, patterns repeat. So it's very interesting to see something that happened 50, 60, 70 years ago and see that it still has resonance. For example, right on the first page of this book, the author writes about how stock exchanges, yes, I mean, we know they perform an important economic function, but they also result in a lot of people losing money. And also he writes, and he's writing about right from the time stock exchanges started, and the first formal modern stock exchange was in the 17th century in Amsterdam. And he writes about how all the patterns showed up within months of that stock exchange starting, right from having a specific vocabulary to people finding reasons for why stock prices went one way or the other, all of which we see repeating all through. I mean, he gives an example, I think from 1961, one day the American stock market fell a lot. There were all very good explanations as to why it happened. The next day it went up just as sharply, and there were equally good explanations as to why that happened. Because the thing is this, most movements are random in the markets, but we still want to find reasons why it happened. There are also very interesting things like income tax. We take so much as a part of life, yet income tax really came into the world pretty late. Before the 19th century, it was tried a couple of times and failed. And even when it started in the 19th century, there was so much resistance to having even a 1% or 5% or 10%. 10% was of course way out, and 2%, 5% also, it was very difficult to convince people why they should pay income tax. Of course, within a few decades, many countries went up to 90% also. So this is something, most of us don't know. There are also very interesting insights in human behavior. There was a exchange crisis on the New York Stock Exchange in 1963, which was caused by basically finding out that certain securities held by a stockbroker were not there. They were inventories of oil, which it turned out the warehouse receipts were false, and the New York Stock Exchange was working against time to make sure the contagion didn't spread, that the whole stock exchange didn't go down, or people didn't lose a lot of money. And between that time, the president of the United States, John F. Kennedy, was shot dead. And look at the way the stock exchanges thought about it, all the people running around to arrange this bailout. They said, oh, I mean, the funeral on Monday gives us an extra day to arrange the bailout. So, everybody looks at things from their own perspective. There are also, corporate fraud stories, or merger stories, or insider trading stories, and we will all find resonance of all those things still. So well worth reading, and I will talk about a few other books over time. Any particular book you want covered, let me know.